Now, electric vehicle demand is slowly declining in major markets globally, causing disruptions across the automotive industry. As a result, automakers and suppliers are facing unprecedented challenges. Joining us now to unpack how the industry is navigating the mismatch between investment in capacity and EV demand is editor-at-large for Financial Mail, David Furlonger. Thank you so much for your time, David. Are electric vehicles at this point swimming against the tide, running against the wind?
They're not swimming against the tide, or I love mixed metaphors. I love mixed metaphors all the time. But no, their share is increasing. Their share is increasing, but not nearly at the rate that it used to be. They are increasing their market share, but in some markets, they increased their share or their sales last year by over 200%. This year, the increase is only by about 30–40%. So electric vehicles are growing, but the rate of growth has shut off very sharply.
David, I want to find out why we are seeing this. Even in the most developed of economies, we are seeing a slowdown in this number. Is it, possibly because of a global economic slowdown that we're seeing, or is this specific to EVs and the take-up there?
There are different reasons in different countries. Let's take the US, for example, where with Donald Trump as the potential next president, there are fears or concerns that he may not be as pro-electric vehicles and clean air as Joe Biden is. In the UK, you've got both the Conservative Party, which is currently in power, and the Labour Party, which is likely to take over later this year. They've both cut back very sharply on their commitments to green energy. But then you've also got in other markets, they're doing away with the subsidies, which have encouraged a lot of people to buy electric vehicles in the past. They've said now, for example, Germany, they've said now we don't need more subsidies. We've got a solid electric vehicle market. So let's drop many of the subsidies, the buyer subsidies. And so in view of that, a lot of people are saying, well, if the price is going to go up 20–30%, then we're not going to buy any more. And then you've got, for example, in the UK, where they've changed some of the rules there. Insurance companies, it costs you about 40% more to insure your electric vehicle than your equivalent internal combustion engine. So it's a whole range of reasons. But the main thing is that electric vehicles are still going strong, but there's a lot more doubts about them. But also it's becoming a lot more expensive to use them as well.
Yeah. Also, David, don't worry, we cannot hear the noise in the background. You know that people are working from anywhere, so we're good with the sound.
Okay.
Developed markets, David, are initiators and leaders of the green energy transition, but we're seeing a backtracking when it comes to, for example, coal mines and now governments that are financially more sound, struggling to pay these subsidies, saying that they are unaffordable. Does that not open then a need for South Africa to chart its own path in the electric vehicle effort that is not dictated by developed markets?
We certainly have a lot of opportunity here, which they don't have overseas. I mean, if you look at our battery electric vehicle market here, last year, for the first time, more than 10 million were sold worldwide. Here it was, a few hundred. Yes, we have all the raw materials which are nearby. But as I've said in a previous interview, a lot of those raw materials may not be needed. Things like cobalt and lithium may be out of date with, for example, the new sodium-ion battery. So there is a lot of scope, that there is still a lot of growth to come. There is no doubt whatsoever that electric vehicles in the next 40 to 50 years are going to be the big growth area. But people are now starting to think, well, maybe it's not where we should be going. Let me give you another example. In Germany, they're talking about by 2040, 100% of vehicles being sold there will be electric vehicles, but they will still be only 30–40% of vehicles on the roads. So in spite of the growth, we're still seeing, we still have a hell of a long way to go.
And with that said, David, I'm keen to also then explore the issue of hybrids and where they might fit in here. If we speak of a cost, and also if we speak of what you mentioned with insurance and subsidies or the lack of them, do hybrids have a better role to play here as we still try to remain conscious about the planet while driving our cars?
Hybrids, I believe, have an enormous role to play. Certainly, if you look at what Toyota has said, that yes, they're going to go into battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, but also basic hybrids which self-regenerate because they have internal combustion engines as well. And if you look at the Japanese market, battery electric vehicles are less than 2% of the market there. And that is because the Japanese, as a whole, are more inclined towards hybrids. They're still very strong in a lot of other markets. In South Africa, they are the short to medium term future of electric vehicles. Battery electric vehicles here, pure battery electric vehicles, they're not going to be big here, I don't believe, for another 20, 30 years. I know some people disagree, but I think another 20, 30 years. But yes, hybrids have an enormous role to play over the next few years.
Yeah, and I mean, investors also want to know, because they do invest in these companies that make electric vehicles. Could we now start to see a race to the bottom in terms of pricing and margins?
You know what? If the Chinese have unbridled access to everywhere, then we could very quickly see a race to the bottom, because the Chinese have invested enormous amounts of money, and they are undercutting pretty well everyone else on prices. And if you look at some of the cars, some of the electric vehicles they're bringing into this market, never mind Europe, then yes, there is a big pricing downwards, and others will be forced to follow. But let's take Europe, where they are putting, I'm not going to say obstacles, but they are putting in new rules whereby it will make it very difficult for the Chinese to access the European market in order to protect the European companies. So don't expect to see a quick rush to the bottom, but we will see that coming gradually towards the bottom end of the market.
Well, David, always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for our chat. And that was Editor-at-Large for Financial Mail, David Furlonger.